Dark worm. Hey guys, thanks for joining me. My name's Steve Cooper. You're watching In Deep on the Delta, and this is the weekly Delta fishing report for the week of March 4th. As promised, we are going to spend a lot more time on the Delta and a little less time on Mother Lode and Clear Lake. I will be talking a little bit about some stripers here on the Delta, but most of this program is going to be dedicated to the largemouth bass fishing here on the California Delta. I also, for the guys who have been asking questions about these Mann's reel and shad, this is a trailer that I've been using on the chatterbaits that I really like, and a lot of guys are having problems finding these, and they are getting harder to find. Stick around after I do the report. I'll give you a report on these guys, and I'll also talk about an alternative trailer that I've been using that'll catch you some fish. So if you can't find the Mann's reel and shad, we'll talk about this other trailer really quick. So let's get into the report for Clear Lake. Clear Lake bait and tackle. Last week it was kind of not so good to fair. This week it's fair to getting better. Maybe not great, maybe not good, but fair and getting better. After I did the report last week and said it was really kind of shaky, they had a couple days of decent fishing. The sun came out, the water temperatures rose, and there was some guys actually doing pretty good. The bite has leveled off a little bit. It's still on an increase, so Clear Lake is something we have to be watching. Most of the fish up there are, or according to Clear Lake Bait and Tackle, a lot of fish are being caught on LV500s and jerk baits. If you go up there, you probably want to give those things a shot. What you need to be looking at in the next week or so, they were expecting a cold front to move in, and they're hoping that doesn't drop the water temps, because if it does, it may put the fish on a little bit of a hold. So if you're going up, keep an eye on the weather. If you're getting 65, 70 degree days up there and the water temperatures continue to rise, the fishing should do nothing but get better and better. And for those guys who love to fish Clear Lake, you should be keeping your eye on that fishery, and it's going to break loose, hopefully in the next few weeks. Not there yet, but keep an eye on it. That's Clear Lake. John Liechty from Experienced Guide Service, he's been fishing Maloney's pretty much full time. And John's report is that he has kind of left the fish alone out there in the 60 and 70 feet depths, and he's moving closer to shore. He's finding a lot of fish in the 15 to 30, 35 feet of water. So he's running the banks, and he's throwing mostly jigs and finesse type stuff like shaky heads and drop shots and, worms. Whatever you're throwing up there for your favorite bait will probably work if you're keeping it in that 15 to 30 feet of water. Catching fish, not great, but there is an upward trend at Maloney's just like everywhere else. And I've talked to several people that have been fishing other Mother Lode lakes up there, and they're all pretty much the same. The water temperatures are rising. You guys know what's going on. It's spring. The fishing is getting slowly but surely better and better. Nothing is really on fire right now, but it's looking good. So we'll keep it short. That's the Mother Lode and Clear Lake, and we're going to get right into the Delta report. Before I start the report, I would like to just thank everyone for continuing all the reports that you're sending me. I really appreciate it, and I want you guys to keep sending them. If you're going out weekly, daily, whatever it is, send me those reports. I'm reading them all. So the reports that I'm getting through my site, the people that I'm talking to on the river and the dock, I'm calling friends that are out. I'm getting the reports from Hook, Line, and Sinker. They're in Oakley, and Outdoor Sportsman in Stockton, and there's been a lot more traffic in the shops, so I'm getting better reports from the shops, and more people are getting involved. So I really feel like the information that I'm being able to pass on to you guys on Thursday gives a really good idea of what's going on over the entire Delta. So before we get into the largemouth, let's talk about striped bass. A lot more people out here fishing. There's not a whole lot of big talk about people catching a lot of fish, but they are catching fish out here. Both shops are saying that most of the talk that they hear, people are catching them on bait. I've seen a lot of people out trolling the main channel this week. I don't know that they're catching anything, but with as many people that have been out there, there's probably some kind of word out that some of those guys are catching them. I also know that some of the guys using live bait are also catching fish. Now, the inside information that I have is from my son Nate, who Nate works in the Bay Area, and he does work, but he fishes about 7 days a week. He goes after work pretty much every day, and he primarily throws big baits for striped bass. He has seen, and along with not only Nathan, but all of his partners that he fishes with and his friends out there, they've seen a big increase in the numbers of fish in the bay. And we're talking Sassoon Bay, Carquinez Straits, Napa, the mouth of the Napa River, all over the inlets and marinas that Nathan will go to after work in the evening. All of a sudden there's just stripers in there like crazy. Not big stripers, a lot of them are undersized, but there are a lot of fish that are, if you wade through them, you can get 22 to 24 inch keepers, and that's what most guys have been getting on the Delta, the schoolie size fish. Nathan did get a fish about 40 inches this week. Was not able to get a picture of it. Said it's the biggest striped bass he'd ever almost landed. He was fishing off the bank, got it right up to his feet, and had a big S-Waver 200 on it, halfway down his mouth, treble hook sitting on the outside. Not a real easy fish to handle if you're by yourself without a net, but he was able to get the net or get the fish up to his ankles and got the fish released and released it unharmed, but just didn't get a picture of it. So there are some big fish out there, and for the striped bass guys, might be something you need to think about, because with all those fish in there, if we do get another rain, those fish will flush into the Delta, and at least we know they're out there. And even if we don't get a rain, they can only stay out there for so long. Their urge to come into fresh water is going to take over, and those fish will be in sooner or later for the spring run. So that's my insight on the striped bass this week. Getting to the black bass, or the largemouth bass. And I'm going to tell you guys straight off, it is a hero or zero situation. It's been that way for the last couple of weeks. Some guys are reading about these big bags that are taking the tournaments. Guys are catching 20, 25, 28 pounds, and that's happening, but that is not Joe Blow everyday guy out here. I would say 80% of my information is very slow, very tough. 20% of it, guys are getting fish and they're a little bit happy. It's not great. Maybe 2% of the guys will go out and just get on that bank that they do really well on, and they have a really good day. But it is kind of a zero to hero thing. I think the problem is not one situation, it's just a number of little situations. The river is in a transitional state, and the water temperatures are slowly rising. But we are in, let me back up a little bit. What I've seen this week is about 54, 55 degrees. Last week we were bumping up to 56, 57, maybe even 58. And there were a few days that there was a trend that the fishing was really good, and then we had this little wind front, which was a cold front. It put a little chop on the water, muddied up the water, brought the clarity down from about 4 or 5 feet all the way to maybe 1 or 2 feet, and that's what it is now. You're going to see water clarity from 1 to 4 feet. Not bad, but it keeps changing along with the temperatures, along with the cloudy day, sunny day, windy day. Everything is just not stable enough to really put the fish in a big bite. It's continuing to go upwards, but if you're here on the right day, you'll do pretty well. If you're here on the wrong day, it's very tough. Now, last week, everyone was getting fish on chatterbaits. They seemed to really come into play, and I got a lot of reports that guys were catching fish on chatterbaits. This week, it's pretty much all been dark-colored worms. I got a picture here of Dave. He's got a 6-pounder. It looks like it's about ready to spawn. We're going to talk about that real soon, too. Picked it up on a dark-colored worm. A lot of fish that are coming in are either coming in on the worms. Chatterbaits would be second. Jerkbaits, I haven't heard a lot about the last week, but spinnerbaits and crankbaits are also catching fish. So number one, for this week, and I'll also say that I was out this morning. I don't know what time, it's 11 o'clock or so. Hit a pretty decent tide, and I got some nice fish. I think I landed 4 fish and I lost 4 fish. Not a very good hookup rate, but I'm happy as heck. It's 11 o'clock and I've had 8 bites. This is really good fishing for me. The other thing that I'd like to say, most of the fish that are coming in are solid fish in that 2 to 4 pound range. Not a lot of dinks. There are some bigger fish, but you know, that's the delta. Really good average size. Now, getting back to what's going on here about spawn, there's a lot of talk about, you know, fish in here spawning and they're up and they're getting ready and blah, blah, blah. And that is true. There are fish that spawn in the Delta probably 10 months a year, but the lion's share of these fish are going to be spawning in April and May. That doesn't mean that there'll be a few fish spawning now going into that, you know, it's kind of pre-spawn. There are fish spawning, but it's still pre-spawn. What I'm getting at is if you are not catching a lot of fish out here, it's because the fishing is tough. It may not be because you're a terrible fisherman. It's just day to day. I go out on one day and I'm a 0, and I go out, you know, 2 days later and I'm not a hero, but I feel like a hero because I've caught a few fish that day. I'm catching fish on some days and it's really tough other days. So if you're the guy that only gets to go out once a week and you're here on Wednesday and the fish aren't biting, it's really tough. Most of the fish have been coming on the first 2 hours of an incoming or outgoing tide, and most of the fish are being caught on flats. There are a few guys catching fish that are punching, throwing worms up close. There's those days when the sun comes out and they'll pull in. But for the most part, if you're coming out here, you haven't been out here for a week or so, I want you to start off with worms and chatterbaits, and then from there you're going to go with some blades and crankbaits. Try to fish flats in, you know, 4 to 8 feet of water. That's where most of the fish are holding up, which is a pre-spawn pattern. They're not in spawn yet, though. If you're thinking you're going to come out here and start head hunting for big fish, it's not going to happen. Give it a couple more weeks or so. As the weather stabilizes, all the fishing will obviously get better also. So that's my bass report, and I hope it helps you guys if you're coming out here to catch a few more fish. Chatterbaits are going to come more and more into play, even if this week they haven't been really that great for me. I've been getting more on worms. But you know, I like this Mann's reeling shad, and people have been asking where to get them. I've been telling them Tackle Warehouse. Tackle Warehouse has had these on sale on clearance for the last 2 or 3 years. I thought that was going to be just one of those things that they were on clearance forever, but it looks like Tackle Warehouse is no longer carrying the Mann's reeling shad. It's a shame. I've got about 50 packs, but I'm not using them. I'm kind of hoarding them now that I can't get them. I've heard that Bass Pro was carrying them, but I don't know if they have them in the shop or they're in the only online. You might check with them. They may have these things. If you find where anybody that has them, ask how many they have. If I were you, I would buy them up, but if they don't, if they have a ton of them, let me know and I'll put the word out on where you can get these reel and shad. And I think the reason these guys have this, they're split, and the reason I like this, as I like to fish these chatterbaits with a lot of movement, with a lot of reel jerk and stuff on them, and as these things jerk around, this thing opens up like a billow, and it'll go like this. Every time that bait moves like this, it kind of gives it a secondary push, and I think that's why these work real well. But for whatever reason, I love these things, and they're not selling them anymore. I can put this one in my pocket and keep it. I don't want anybody taking off my boat when I go in there, but when I go into the dock. I want to talk about big bite baits, and this is called a Kamikaze Swimmer, or Swimmin'. That's what I have been using as an alternative, and it's a 4.25 bait. It looks like this. Now, you guys that run big bite baits, they make great colors. This is a watermelon red flake, and it goes really well with the green pumpkin jackhammer, which is what I like to throw, or this is a jackhammer sprayed grass. That's what it looks like on the on the bait. And you can see it's almost like a scaled down Yamamoto Zaco with this part in here being a lot thinner, but it's got kind of these indentations. And I really like the way that this tracks the bait. I've been catching them on this, and this is a good backup if you can't find the man's reeling shad. So find these, let me know where they're going. Don't expect them to be around because I'll buy them all up. But if you can't find that trailer, get the Big Bite Baits, Kamikaze Swimmer, or whatever the heck it's called. They do have these at Tackle Warehouse, and they've been available pretty much everywhere that I've looked for them. So just a little quick reminder on that. Thank you guys for listening. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you keep sending me the reports. And remember, it's zero or hero. Don't get down on yourself if you're not catching fish out here. But the one thing is, you cannot be a hero sitting on your couch. And now is probably the time when you want to start coming out. I've been telling everybody to stay home, do their chores. As long as the weather's fine out here, the river's beautiful, the fish are increasing, the bite's increasing, and if you hit it on the right day, you could have a pretty darn good day out here. So get out here, do some fishing, and let me know whether you're a zero or a hero. If you're a hero, send me a picture. I might put it up on the report if you give me permission, and everybody will be able to see what kind of hero you are. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next Thursday. Until then, have a good week of fishing, and see you next week.